ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Chargers, Niners, man, that was the perfect cap to what was an awesome day of football. And the beauty of it all was I got to watch everything. No Washington game to distract me from the festivities. From start to finish, this was an epic day of football, capped with a very solid Sunday Night Football game. Niners get the win 22-16 over the Los Angeles Chargers. Both teams lead the game at 5-4. If you're a Chargers fan, this feels like a missed opportunity to steal one on the road. You dominated the first half, got some critical turnovers in great field position with some opportunities to really put the pressure on the Niners and jump out to a big lead. It felt like for as much as you dominated in the first half and as many opportunities that you were afforded in the first half, you should have been up more at halftime. You know, the score should not have been as close as it was at the halftime break. You felt like 16-10 just wasn't good enough. You know, it felt like this game should have been, 24 or 21 or, 20 at a bare minimum, 20-10, at the halftime break. Settling for all those field goals instead of punching it in and getting touchdowns, especially with the field position that you had after that opening touchdown drive. You felt like the Chargers had opportunities to really put pressure. And again, the 49ers are not an explosive offense. They're an offense that wears you down. They've got guys that get yards after the catch, but it's not a one-play, 72-yard touchdown strike type of offense. They have that capability, but that's not really their MO. That's not really embedded in their DNA. They're more of a, 9-play, 79-yard, 12-play, 82-yard, 14-play, 83-yard drive type of team. And so if you put pressure on them, if you jump out on top of them 20-3, it really does change the way they approach things. Now Jimmy G has to be more of a focal point of the offense and less of McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. And now you saw what Elijah Mitchell brings to the table. He was outstanding tonight. They've missed him since week 1 with the injury of the sprained MCL. So getting him back, you saw, was huge, and it takes a little bit of pressure off of McCaffrey as well. And, for as much of what we make of, Justin Herbert and, the weapons that he doesn't or, does have or doesn't have, the lack of weaponry, he's outstanding, man. We've talked about this before. We talked about it in week 2 when he first sustained the rib injury and then came out and threw that ridiculous throw up the seam to DeAndre Carter. And you're just like, wow, it's just, jaw-dropping and breathtaking. He had one of those throws again tonight. He's moving to his left. He throws back across his body to his right in the traffic again, as, Chris Collinsworth called it, a seed. I mean, the thing was on a frozen rope. And he does this on a weekly basis, for him to not have any weapons and him to give them an opportunity week in and week out, it just speaks to what he is as a quarterback, because they don't have anything. And then you lose Gerald Everett to a groin injury, in the game. And so the one guy that you thought you could count on in addition to Austin Eckler and Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter, you lose him. And so now you're just stuck essentially with one, receiver, maybe 2, and a running back. And so we'll talk about the Chargers. Let's talk about the 49ers, man. This is a team that they're still trying to figure some things out. Obviously you get Christian McCaffrey, about 3 or 4 days, about a week roughly before the, trade deadline commences. And they were trying to work him in. They get the bye week, and you saw what he could be in this offense. I even said, I remember very vividly saying to you guys, even in that loss to Kansas City in his first game, and he was brief because, again, he had just gotten there like 4 days prior, you could see he was going to have an impact. And then you saw what he did against the Rams, 3 touchdowns that he helped account for, 1 rushing, 1 receiving, and 1 throwing. And you just say, wow, this guy's going to be amazing for this offense. And then you get Deebo Samuel back from the injury. You get Elijah Mitchell back. You get Kyle Juszczyk back. And all of a sudden, this is the first time we've seen this offense with all of its parts fully healthy. Kittle's there. Samuel is there. Now you got McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell is now healthy. Juszczyk is available. Obviously you've got Ayuk and, we've got all these parts. Jennings was huge tonight. And so it's still a work in progress, figuring out how everything's going to go. But you can see the makings of how this 49ers team can be really dangerous moving forward. I still think they're going to win that division. I still think they're the best team in that NFC West division. Seattle's been a great story this season, and I'm not going to dismiss them. I'm no longer going to do that. They're legit. They're going to be around. I just think this 49ers team is the best that division has to offer if they can stay healthy. And you saw some glimpses tonight. Defensively, we know what they are, and they're still missing the guys in the middle, right? Greenlaw and Armstead. And so they're not even whole on the defensive side of the football, but they've continued to find ways to be effective defensively. And if they can put it all together, if they can be consistent, stay out of their own way, the turnovers hurt them tonight. And it could have hurt them worse if this defense didn't rise to the occasion, right? They've got to find a way to steer clear of the mistakes. That first possession of the game defensively, having those missed assignments and allowing the Chargers to score a touchdown very easily, I may add, they have to stay away from that. If they can eliminate the mistakes and be a more consistent ball club, which I think they can, they could be the most complete team in the NFC. Now, again, don't want to discount Philadelphia, don't want to discount Minnesota, don't want to overlook some of the teams that have been consistent throughout this season. But this 49ers team, they showed it last year. If they get into the tournament, they have the type of pedigree, they have the type of team that is fully capable of going the distance. And so when I look at the 49ers and I look at what they did tonight, and again, it was not pretty. This was gritty football. Most importantly, it was a dub. What they did tonight was they were able to find a way to win despite making mistakes, despite the ineffectiveness in the red zone. That almost cost them in this game. The inability to punch the football into the end zone and having to settle for Robbie Gould field goals almost cost them. Missed an extra point that would have put them up 4 and instead left the door slightly ajar at 19-16 instead of them forcing the Chargers to need a touchdown. All of those things occurred tonight. And yet, game on the line, what do? They get a stop. They force an interception. They do the little things. They get after Justin Herbert. They hit him. They force a punt. And then Talanoa Hufanga finishes the deal with the interception. They started to bring pressure late in the ball game. They turned that defense loose. Fred Warner got loose, got pressure. It's a group that continues to just be rock solid on the defensive side of the football. And I didn't agree with the Greenlaw ejection. I knew when they started to talk, it was funny because Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico, they go to the official that they have, the resident official, and they're all conversating about whether they're going to throw the flag, or pick it up. And I'm like, they're not going to pick this thing up. They're talking about whether to eject Dre Greenlaw. And I knew that. And I said, I'm going to be shocked if they don't. This long conference is to determine whether he needs to be ejected or not. I'm like, this is so stupid. It's kind of like how I feel about college with the targeting rule. Like, I hate that look, you call the penalty, fine. But I hate that a guy has to be ejected from the ball game. Like, that is the stupidest thing in college football. You take a kid and look, yeah, you want the head out of the game. You don't want guys going head hunting. You don't want helmet to helmet contact. But taking a guy and throwing him out of the game, that's so extreme to me. And again, if it's a reckless play, and we see some guys that just play the game on the edge, and they're going out and they don't care about their body, so they damn sure don't care about your body. Okay, fine. You want to eject that guy, go right ahead. But that wasn't a guy going out looking to hurt anybody with a reckless play that has no business in the game. That's, to me, when an ejection should be entered into the equation. Not when a guy's out playing football. Again, there are different factors that go into these plays. He was pushed. He, being Justin Herbert, was pushed by another 49ers defender, and it changed, the angle at which the hit took place. It just was a lot there. That should not have been an ejectable offense, in my opinion. But that's the beauty of the 49ers. They lose Dre Greenlaw. Al Shire comes in. There's no drop-off, okay? Like, all you're doing is bringing in another athletically gifted, physical, sideline-to-sideline linebacker that's going to come in and get the job done. So I think what makes this 49ers defense more complete this year is their secondary is better. One of the big knocks on them a season ago was the revolving door at the cornerback position. Jason Verrett is always hurt. They didn't have anybody out there. They had old men. They've been trotting out old guys for the last 3-4 years. It was Dick Sherman. Then it was Josh Norman. Well, they're not doing that this year. They've got some good football players in that secondary. Charvarius Ward has come in, and he's really stabilized that back end. And I think that's a good group back there now. And so if they can just get healthy on that defensive line, they're a team that I think epitomizes winning in the trenches on both sides of the football. They want to run it. They want to stop you from running, and then they want to pin their ears back, get after you. And they slowly, methodically wore down the Chargers, because the Chargers are not a good rush defense. As a matter of fact, they're one of the worst rush defenses in football, something that plagued them last year. They thought they fixed it. They've had a number of injuries. They talked about it all night long ad nauseum. If you're a Chargers fan, you're probably tired of hearing them talk about it. But then there were more injuries on the defensive line throughout the game, so it was hard for them to stop talking about it because there were more injuries. Your rookie goes down, who had been playing well. And so I think Christian Covington went down later on in the game. So it just was exacerbated. They tried early in the game and actually were quite effective, especially in the first half, slowing down the Niners rushing attack. Sands for like the very first possession when the 49ers marched it down, but then they buckled down in the red zone and forced them to kick a field goal. Outside of that possession, I thought they were really good against the run for the most part in the first half. And then in the second half, you saw a slow deterioration of that rush defense. I thought the tackling was not great in the secondary. There were a lot of catches short of the sticks, guys making someone miss. We saw it a couple of times with Juwan Jennings on some third downs, being able to find a way to get the first down. If not for a Brandon Ayuk drop in the end zone, honestly, maybe this game isn't even as close. But at the end of the day, the 49ers got it done. It was not pretty. They turned it over. They made mistakes. They had blown coverages in the secondary. They missed an extra point. They made this game a lot tougher than it needed to be. But when they needed to make plays, they did it. And that's what good football teams do in this league, is find ways to get it done when it needs to get done. When there is no other option, either you get this done or else. They got it done tonight. For the Chargers, I'll just say this. They continue to fight. They continue to grind. They continue to be competitive with a roster that has just been absolutely decimated by injuries. You hear this all the time. Everybody's got injuries. Everybody don't have injuries like the Chargers have injuries. They're on a different level. There's your team's injuries, there's the other team's injuries, and then there's the Chargers injuries. And the Chargers are way up here. Your team's injuries are somewhere down here. And then the teams that are relatively healthy, they're down at the bottom. The Chargers are at the very top. No one's as banged up as the Chargers. You could go down a laundry list of injuries for this team. They continue to incur injuries throughout the game. Herbert had to leave. I thought that hurt them. They could have potentially scored a touchdown right before half, and that Herbert having to be evaluated. They brought in Chase Daniel, and they went backwards in 3 plays. 2 plays of, throwing it to Austin Eckler high, and then he takes a sack and, damn near fumbles the football. And so that killed that drive. That had a chance to be a touchdown potentially. So that hurts you there. Obviously, you had some other injuries, guys going to the locker room. I already talked about not getting Gerald Everett back in this game with the groin injury. Your 5th round defensive tackle who had been playing well out of UCLA doesn't return with a knee injury. At one point, K9 went down, came back in the game though. Kenneth Murray, your linebacker, he did return to the ball game, but he left briefly. I talked about Christian Covington, your other defensive tackle, who went down in the game. I mean, those are just, surface injuries, but there are so many guys that obviously are already out. No Mike Williams in this game. No Keenan Allen in this game. Your left tackle is done for the season. Your right tackle, who, we could talk about how good he is or isn't, he was out. The backup wasn't even available, and Storm Norton. And so now you got to go to a guy that's a rookie. I think 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen were rookies on the offensive line, if I'm not mistaken. It's a mess with the injuries, the skill position guys that are out, and then you lose Everett, and somehow you're winning this game going into the 4th quarter, 16-13. And again, it could have been even more had you executed better down in the red zone. I tell you guys this every single week. If you want to go and figure out, and I think both teams struggled in the red zone, to be honest with you, but usually if you want to figure out who won the football game, go to 2 stats: turnovers and red zone efficiency. And I haven't looked at this, but just playing the game back in my head, the Chargers may be the better team in both statistics, and they might have found a way to lose. Let's check it out. Both teams had 1 turnover, so that's a wash. The 49ers were 2 of 5 in the red zone. The Chargers were 0 of 1. So there it is. No touchdowns in the red zone for the Chargers. Their only touchdown came outside of the red zone. Meanwhile, the 49ers made it to the red zone 5 times, and this was the reason this game was even close. They only came away with 2 touchdowns, and they had to settle for 3 Robbie Gould field goals. Had they turned just 1 more of those, if Ayuk doesn't drop that 1 football, I don't know if this game is as close as it is. But that being said, the opportunities that the Chargers had in the first half, blocking a punt, right? Partially blocking a punt, getting the football in plus territory, forcing the fumble of Brandon Ayuk, getting the football in plus territory, and not being able to turn that into more points. Instead, just 6 points off of those 2 opportunities. You got to lament those missed opportunities if you're a Chargers fan. Look, to be 5-4, and it's again, you hate having these opportunities go by the wayside, because you win this game, you get to 6-3, and all of a sudden that game next week is for first place in the division. You win, you go to 7-3, you drop the Chiefs to 7-3, and all of a sudden you're right there. You've got new life. Now you're 5-4. You win that game next week. You still close the gap, but you're still not in first place. So it becomes even more paramount next week to find a way to get it done. Mike Williams said he's, ahead of schedule, doing everything he can to try to play next week. You got to get more out of the receiver position. It can't be the Austin Eckler show, but that's what it is right now, because you just don't have any guys. And hell, you're getting great production out of DeAndre Carter. Josh, oh, shucks. Why am I blanking on his name? Now I got to go look it up. Palmer, Josh Palmer, he's playing well, right? Like, you're getting good production out of these guys, but neither one of these dudes should be even remotely close to being a 1 or a 2. These are at a bare minimum. Palmer's a 3, and really DeAndre Carter should be nothing more than a 4. These are guys playing in the 1 and 2 positions right now. That's how bad it is for this Chargers football team. So it's tough. It would be so good if you could run the football to take pressure off of the passing game, but that's not even really in your DNA. You're not a big run football team. We saw that tonight. You tried to run. You brought in the rookie. He got stuffed. You weren't able. Sony Michel has been pretty much a non-factor all season long, and Austin Eckler is probably more valuable to you as a pass catcher than he is an actual rusher of the football. So the run game doesn't really do anything for this offense. It's all on the shoulders of number 10, and that's a tough burden to bear when you don't have your top 2 targets at the receiver position, when you don't have your top target at the tight end position. Herbert throws a perfect pass up the seam to one of the backup tight ends. I'm going to find out his name because, that is as bad of a drop as you can have in a game, to Trey McKitty. I think he's a second-year tight end, if I'm not mistaken. Right up the seam. Perfectly executed play call. They get into those layers. You got a tight end running up the seam and Richard Rodgers to clear it out. He comes into the second window. He's open. Herbert puts it right on his hands, and he drops it. He would have walked into the end zone. You can't have that happen when you already are down a number of targets. And so, those are the types of things, again, if you're a Chargers fan, that just drive you nuts. An opportunity for a touchdown, you drop it. And so the Chargers are interesting, but if they don't get healthy soon, and I don't know when Bosa's coming back, right? Like I mentioned all those injuries. I didn't even mention Joey Bosa. I don't know when he's coming back. I don't know when Mike Williams is coming back. Keenan Allen, I don't even look for him anymore, right? If they don't get healthy soon, I don't know how much longer they can hold up. Let's look at their schedule real quick. Obviously, flex game next week from a 4 o'clock to a 8:20 Sunday night game with the Chiefs next week. That's a massive game. Then you go on the road to the Cardinals the following week. Very winnable football game. The Cardinals are in disarray. They got a big win today, but they're still not right. Raiders suck. You're going to beat them. All right. Then you got the Dolphins. Then you got the Titans, Colts, Rams, Broncos. If you can find a way in your next three games, let's call it these next 3 games. These are pivotal because you got to be over 500 after this stretch, because the Chiefs are a very winnable game. But again, if you don't have enough horses, I don't know if you're going to be able to get it done. The Cardinals, very winnable game. It's on the road. The Cardinals are a terrible home team. You can go there, you can win and get back over 500 if you don't beat the Chiefs. That's assuming that you don't beat the Chiefs. And then the Raiders suck, right? So whether you whether you beat the Chiefs or not, you got to win the next 2 games after that game, regardless of what happens, and get to 7-5. You do that, you're going to have a chance to make the playoffs, because even if you don't beat the Dolphins at home, I think you can beat the Titans. You definitely can beat the Colts and the Rams and the Broncos to finish up. So these next 3 games are huge because you need to come out of that stretch at no worse than 7-5. If you come out of that thing at 6-6, meaning you lose 2 out of your next 3 games, you're not serious about making the postseason. So we'll see what happens with the Chargers over the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, let's take a look at their upcoming schedule. Monday night game against the Cardinals next week on the road. That'll be interesting. Don't know the status of Kyler Murray. He did not play today. Colt McCoy came in and played a whale of a ball game. He did sustain an injury, but he did come back. Then you have the Saints at home the following week. Very winnable football game there. Dolphins. That's going to be a toughie, even though that's at the crib. If they're healthy, that's a hell of an offense. They may be the best offense in football right now. Then you got the Bucks. That's going to be tough. Seahawks, Raiders, Cardinals again. So you've got a very doable schedule. There's some toughies in there, but you got to take care of the games that are there to be got, and you got to find a way to go to Arizona and win. You really need to sweep the Cardinals. With the way they're struggling this year, you got to find a way. And you've played well against the Arizona Cardinals. It's one of the teams that you've owned in this division. You need to continue that by sweeping them. You need to take care of the Saints. The Dolphins are going to be tough. The Bucs are going to be tough. The Seahawks on the road going to be tough. The Raiders got to win that football game. So they're winnable football games on this schedule. But again, the 49ers have been an up and down team. But now they're healthy. They got to stay healthy, and they got to learn how to use all of the parts that they have. It'll be interesting to see if they can do that or not. All right, so I got a couple of supers. We'll get into those. If you're out there, you want your comment read, you know what to do. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. Super chats are the way to ensure that your comments get read. We will take the supers first that we have, and then we will get to any hashtags that are pertinent. So with that said, let's kick off the night with a super chat from Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Washington versus Philly, injuries, keys, and predictions vid, or now? I have no idea what you're asking me. I'm assuming you're asking me, am I going to do a video? I told you I was going to do a video, that it would be out on Monday in the morning. So you'll get all of those things on Monday morning in terms of the Monday night game. So I assume that's what you were asking. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, is this the gray album, Louie? No W white or L black? This is what my swag was today. You know, I was out of the house, out of the office. I literally just got home, which is why I was so late setting up everything. And just gotten back from my parents' house. Watched all the games with the fam. Like I said, it was a great day of football. And I had on my gray LouieTeeNetwork swag. So that was the mood today. So nothing in particular, no rhyme or reason behind that. That's just how I was feeling. So anyway, let's get to the comment section. Let's see. Niners fan writes, Bosa should be the defensive player of the year favorite, man. I know Micah is great, but Bosa is just a beast. I mean, he's going to be up there in that conversation. There's just so many guys playing really good football on the defensive side of the ball this year. You know, there were so many guys up there with 8.5 sacks. Matthew Judon and Zadarius Smith. You know, Bosa's in that conversation. As you mentioned, Micah Parsons, he's cooled off a bit, has Micah Parsons. Like, he was a non-factor against Green Bay today. Didn't even hear his name called at all during the game. So he's cooled off considerably, but obviously Micah Parsons is in that mix. And like I said, there have been some really good defensive, performers this season, but Bosa's definitely in that mix. Every game, it seems like he makes some sort of a play or has some type of an impact on the game. You saw it again tonight. They chipped him just about on every single snap they could. And then when they didn't, he took that tackle and he literally dump trucked him into the lap of Justin Herbert just about every single time. So he's definitely a guy that impacts the game without question. The Code Talker, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, Minnesota is a serious contender. They seem to be a team that finds a way to win. I'm starting to believe they can take the Eagles. I don't believe in I feel the exact opposite of the Minnesota Vikings, actually. The one thing we can agree on is they find a way to win. They somehow in the fourth quarter when they're down, and this is the problem, they're down too often. I don't like living on the edge. I love the fact that they're resilient. I love the fact that they're never out of a ball game. That is a great gene to have, which they do, is that they're never out of a ball game. If you're a Vikings fan, you've always got to feel like we got a chance to win down 14, down 10, whatever the number is in the fourth quarter. They got to feel like, hey, we're going to find a way to get it done because we always do. But that's no way to live, is to be down in the fourth quarter, having your quarterback throw up, YOLO balls and hoping your ridiculous wide receiver comes down with it. The Bills literally lost the game today. Like, for as good as Minnesota played in the comeback and as many plays as they made, the Bills literally gave that game away with mistake after mistake after mistake. They deserved to lose that game. And I knew the football guys were going to ensure that they lost the game because they shouldn't have even gotten a field goal to send it to overtime because Gabe Davis got away with a catch that wasn't, and that was a 20-yard gain, and it was out of bounds, and it stopped the clock. That shouldn't have happened. And the NFL was asleep because they, the Vikings couldn't challenge that. That has to come from upstairs because it's within the final 2 minutes of the game. And so that shouldn't have happened. And so I knew the football gods was going to right or wrong. I didn't know if he was going to do it in regulation, which he didn't. He waited till overtime to do it. Whatever the case may be, I just look at the Vikings and I say that this shit isn't good enough. You fall down and then you wait till the waning moments of the ball game to start pulling plays out of your ass. You should have lost to Washington last week. You definitely should have lost this football game this week. I can probably point to 2 or 3 other games you probably should have lost to Detroit. Easily could have lost to Chicago. You didn't play the Dolphins with Tua, so that's kind of an asterisk win. I'm not buying what they're selling. I look at them and I guess it's because of how they performed against Washington and then how they looked against Philadelphia. I can't get that out of my mind. And then I see how they're winning every week. It'd be one thing if they were taking care of business and they were holding on to leads and they had a tough time, but they're down in every game. Okay. They're down. Of their 8 victories, they're on a 7-game win streak now, I believe. Of those 7 wins, they were probably trailing in 4 or 5 of them in the fourth quarter and had to come back and win. They were definitely trailing against Detroit. They were definitely trailing against Washington. They were definitely trailing against Buffalo. That's 3 right there. I don't know if they were trailing in the fourth quarter against Chicago or not, but they did come back and win that game as well. I don't know if they were trailing in that game in the fourth quarter, but I said all of that to say this. Minnesota is a good football team. I don't know if they're good enough to beat even the team we saw tonight in San Francisco. I can't respect the fact that they're always down and having to dig themselves out of a hole. Because you get into the playoffs against good teams, like really good teams, right? Buffalo, to me, one of their biggest problems, and this is the thing, Buffalo is the best team in football when they get out of their own way. The problem is they're constantly tripping over their own feet, are the Bills. They make a lot of stupid mistakes, a lot of unforced errors. They should have blown out Green Bay on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks back. That game had no business being, a game that you had to tune in and watch to the very bitter end. But we did because they kept making mistakes. They lost to the Jets. Why? Because they made too many mistakes. They lost to the Dolphins. Why? Because they made too many mistakes. They should have lost to Baltimore. Why? Because they made too many mistakes. They should have won this game, but they lost. Why? Because they made too many mistakes. This is their MO. This is their thing, right? I look at Minnesota and I see them being a team that would struggle against other good teams because you don't get away with being down by 10, 13, 14 in the fourth quarter against good teams consistently and think you're going to come back and win. Yep, you can get away with that against Washington and Detroit and Chicago and all these bad football teams. right? That probably ultimately won't be in the playoffs when it's all said and done. You got away with it against Buffalo on the road. That's impressive. But I can't see you. That's not sustainable, is essentially what I'm getting at. I said all of that to say this. That shit is not sustainable. And so they got to prove to me that they're legit. I could easily see them being a one and done type of team in the playoffs. I'm telling you right now, as a fan of a team that if I get in, I'll more likely than not be a 7 seed. I'm dying to get an opportunity to play the Vikings as a 2 seed. Please stay at number 2 because I think we can beat them. And I'm pretty sure a team like San Francisco, if they get in as the 7 seed, if they don't win their division, they're saying, please, Minnesota, stay right there at number 2 because we know we can come in and do you. And everybody else is saying the same thing. Hey, I'll take my chances. I'll roll the dice. I'd much rather play the Vikings. Hell, this sounds crazy. I'd rather play the Vikings than the Giants. Because the Giants defensively, I think, are better than the Vikings. And the Giants, to me, I won't say they're better coached, but I think that, and first of all, I'm not afraid of the Giants. I don't think anybody else is either. But I just think the Giants are a more consistent ball club for 4 quarters every game. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get. The Vikings are dangerous. They got Dalvin Cook. He ripped off an 81-yard touchdown run today. Justin Jefferson is ridiculous. He made 2 of the most craziest catches you'll see in a ball game. That 4th and forever catch that he makes. Are you effing kidding me? Like, they've got studs on their team. Kirk Cousins is playing ridiculous football, standing in the pocket, getting crushed, and making throws week after week after week. But that defense is not great. I'd argue that it's not even that good. Okay. And that offense, they have these spells and these lulls throughout games where they don't do anything. You know, they score early, they score late, but you can really bog them down in the second and third quarter. And again, against better football teams, I'm not sure if that's going to fly, but they got it done again. I can't take away the fact that you give these guys a chance in the fourth quarter, they're going to take advantage of it. I mean, I did not think they were going to win this game. They were down in that game. I think the score at one point was 24-10, I think it was. It might have even gotten to 27-10. I left them for dead. And then Cook rips off the 81-yard run, and that kind of started the comeback. But what a crazy game that was. Anyway, I digress. I got a super chat, actually. Let me go ahead and get that, and we'll come back. Abel Ambrosio, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what's the chances Josh McDaniels gets fired? I don't think they're very high right now, Abel. I think that, if you had a more impatient owner in Vegas, then that might be a real topic of conversation. He's been horrible. And the fact that you lose to the Colts with Jeff Saturday, and the Raiders are a bad football team. Like, they're one of the worst teams in football. They suck. I'm not picking them anymore this season. I'll just have to take my lumps. I'm not picking them anymore. I don't expect them to win very many more games. Again, they could easily end up with the number 1 or 2 pick overall in the draft. They suck that bad. So my question is really, are you able to trade Derek Carr in the offseason? Because I think you're going to end up drafting a quarterback if you're the Raiders. We'll see. Maybe they decide to go in a different direction, keep Derek Carr and build around him. if I'm the Raiders, they've been looking to upgrade that position. It seems like every year we've been talking about Derek Carr getting traded or them looking to upgrade. They've never sucked, so they've never been in a position to just outright draft a guy. They're going to be in that position this year. But had Josh McDaniels been coaching for an owner like, David Tepper in Carolina or Jim Irsay in Indianapolis, yeah, he might be fired. One of these impatient owners who really doesn't have the patience for this type of incompetence, he might be fired. But you're talking about, Davis. He reminds me I think it's because of his haircut. He reminds me of Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber, right? I'm not calling him a dumb guy because I don't think he's stupid. I just don't think he is impulsive. I think he's going to just sit back, let football guys do what they do. He's not going to be, overly intrusive. I think he's going to allow the process to play itself out. All the mistakes Gruden made, all the mistakes that Mayock made, he never intervened. They were screwing stuff up, especially the first couple of years with all the losing and then the draft picks, and they weren't working out. And he never said a word, and if Gruden doesn't have those emails leaked, he'd still be there. And look, they made the playoffs last year. I don't want to make it seem like Gruden was terrible, of recent ilk. Gruden, they were playing better. He had gotten the team where he wanted it to be, and they were heading in the right direction. But those first couple of years were lean under Gruden, right? It looked like the game had passed him by, and he didn't do anything. He just sat back and let the process play itself out. I think he's going to do the same thing with Josh McDaniels. But Josh McDaniels has proven before that he wasn't fit to be an NFL head coach, and he destroyed an organization. I'd be careful watching this guy because he destroyed the Denver Broncos once upon a time. He could easily do the same thing to the Raiders and then go crawling back to Bill Belichick. That's his move. I just think this is karma. I think the football gods are just making sure he understands what you did to the Indianapolis Colts. We didn't forget, and we're going to make sure you pay for this. So I think the Raiders are just collateral damage. But this is all about Josh McDaniels. So you don't get to do the things that he's done, like what he did in Denver, like what he did to the Colts, and just get away with it. I think that's what's going on right now. I don't think he's going to be fired, though. Got another super, so we'll take that. Daniel Snyder, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, guess the worst team in the league as of right now. Yeah, right. So these nuts. Yeah, right. Come on, man. Gotta be better than that, right? I just told you who one of the worst teams in football is. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Dallas lost, Wizards win, feeling good, Louie. It sounds like it was a great day for you, right? It could be even better if Washington wins, right? But we'll see what happens there. But that Dallas loss was, I had a great week picking games, picking winners. I think I might have been able to make a move because these dudes at the top have just been outstanding, and I haven't been able to gain any ground on them. As a matter of fact, they've been extending their lead every single week, or I've been just, breaking even with them. But I think I might have finally gotten to, because I usually use my dad, Boss Man, as a measuring stick because he's ahead of me by like 7 or 8 games, right? And then the leader in the winners and losers is like 3 games ahead of him. And so I'm like 10 games back. And I just can't seem to cut into their lead. And I'm just searching for a week where I'm able to steal 2 or 3 and just give me some momentum. I think this is the week because I told you this season makes 0 sense. So you got to pick, not being logical. I'm a very logical guy. You can't make logical picks with the way the season is gone. You got to start picking some shit outside the box, but you can't go overboard because, again, you'll cancel out some of your good wins with bad losses. Everybody lost the Buffalo game for the most part. There are going to be some people that said, I don't know if Josh Allen's playing, and they picked Minnesota anyway and got away with it. But most people picked Buffalo. Most people picked Chicago, right? Like, yeah, there were going to be some Detroits in there. I'm not too worried. I think most people that are important, that matter, picked Chicago. Now the Indy one, I don't know. That could go either way, right? Like, yeah. I thought long and hard about picking Indy because you know my rule. The first game with a new interim head coach usually is a win for that coach. So that's my rule. I went against my rule because it was so unorthodox what the Colts did. But I'm like, this is the perfect team for them to play. The Raiders suck. And I was right. I shouldn't have gone against my gut, but I did. So I took an L there. But look at all the wins I got. I picked Tampa Bay. They won. A lot of people picked Seattle. Rightly so. I picked Green Bay. A lot of people picked that. I don't think many people picked Green Bay. I feel really good about that one. That's my crown jewel. I feel really good about my Pittsburgh win. A lot of people picked New Orleans. I like, TJ Watt's coming back. It's in Pittsburgh. Give me the Steelers. I got that one. So I felt really good about my wins. I got some big ones. I picked Arizona. A lot of people like the Cardinals suck. It's in LA. I said it's going to be the battle of the two backup quarterbacks. Give me Colt McCoy. I was right. So I felt really good about what I did, but we'll see if it's enough, I feel good about my picks. It was a really good week. A lot of good games, as I mentioned. Most of them went the way that we thought, or at least I thought. And I played with house money because I told boss, I said, look, I've had a great first half of, games and how things shook out with, the Steelers winning and the Bucks winning and everything else kind of falling in line, like Dolphins taking care of business and all of that good stuff. I felt good, right? I said, I'm playing with house money. I just need one of these two games. Either I need the Cardinals to win or the Packers to win. I don't expect both. Well, I got both. I just wanted one. I got both. I'm feeling damn good about it. So it's a good weekend. Anyway, I digress. All right. Let's get to Niners fan who writes, Levi was rocking today. The team is poised for a playoff run as long as we don't turn the ball over. I couldn't agree with you more. This team is set up to win and win big. I think right now they could be the most dangerous team in the NFC side of the bracket, again, if they can stay out of their own way. And it's easier said than done. And again, I don't want to dismiss the Philadelphia Eagles and what they're doing. I'm still not a firm believer that there's a dominant team on either side of the bracket. I feel like this shit is still wide ass open. And with the Bills' struggles and some of the injuries that they've incurred this season, I'm starting to look at the Bills. They're mortal. The Chiefs are mortal. The Chiefs probably are still the best team in the conference, even though I think the Bills can beat the Chiefs. They're still going to have to go through it with all these struggles. They're going to have to go through Arrowhead. And that's the problem is I don't think they can go into Arrowhead and win in the playoffs. They can do it in the regular season. They've already shown us that 2 years in a row. They can go to Arrowhead in the regular season. They haven't proven in the playoffs when it matters the most that they can go to Arrowhead and win. And so I still think that it was imperative that they got home field throughout. They've blown that, okay? They've blown that opportunity with all of these losses and these hiccups. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they're only one game back. And they've already beaten the Chiefs head-to-head. But they're heading down a slippery slope. As a matter of fact, yeah, they're 6-3 with that loss. The Dolphins are 7-3. And so they've taken the lead in the AFC East now. So they've got their own issues to worry about, just winning their own division. Dolphins have already beaten them. I think it's going to be a lot tougher for the Dolphins to come into Buffalo in December when it's cold and frigid temperatures and win there. But the Bills have shown the ability to implode and give away ball games. So this shit is wide open, and I think the 49ers are right in the mix in the NFC. Right in the mix. They've been there. They've done that. They're battle-tested. They know what it takes, and they've got talent. This is the most talent I think Kyle Shanahan has had since he's been in San Francisco. I think they're a dangerous team right now. Let's see. Got a super chat here from the Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Louie, please take my hand and become an Eagles fan. Since Redskins have been changed, you need to move on because you are too awesome, my brother. Please. Man. One thing I can say, you are consistent. The Phillies Ace 34. You're very consistent in trying to persuade me to switch sides. But you know that's not going to happen. But I applaud your determination and your persistence. I will say that. Abel Ambrosio, double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, your favorite one-hand catch, Diggs or Jefferson? Without a doubt, it's the Jefferson catch. I mean, he had no business catching that shit. I mean, first of all, if I'm a Bills fan, I'm putting the vast majority of the loss on that defender. I don't know his name. I think it was number 39. I'm pissed off because, and me and my dad, literally, we sat down and me and Boss are arguing for like 5 minutes. And then I realized, what am I arguing on? This isn't my team. I don't care that much. But we're literally arguing about this guy going for the interception. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Because my dad, his favorite line, Boss's favorite line is, I hate dumb football players. You know, I hate stupid football players. He hates when guys do dumb things. I don't think he gets any more foolish than number 39 trying to pick that pass off. It's like 4th and 28. I don't know what it was. It was 4th and forever. It's like 4th and 22, some ridiculous number, right? If you pick it off, you get it's like a punt. And again, it doesn't matter. You pick it off, you bat it down, game's over either way. But why would you want to pick it off and have the ball all the way back there? I get it. And my dad was like, well, he wants the stats, this, that, and the third. And I get that as well. But just like in a Hail Mary situation, it's not about you being selfish. It's about you doing the right thing. Bat the damn football down. When you try to catch it, stupid shit like that can happen. And what happens? He tries to catch it, and Justin Jefferson with one hand takes it away from his ass and catches the shit. Keeps the game alive for the Vikings. Without that, the game's over. They got no more timeouts. You take a knee, the game's over. All he has to do is bat the football down, the game's over, and he wants to try to go and catch the bitch. They deserve what they got. They found and created ways to lose a game that they should have won. Are you kidding me? Yeah, the Jefferson catch, without a doubt, is my favorite one. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Louie, because I always have your back. Philly also. You do. I told you. This is the thing I love about Eagles fans. The few that I have this relationship with. They're the most loyal fans that will have my back in terms of an outside fan base. There's about 5 or 6 of you. Love you to death, right? It's the other thousands of Eagles fans that are just insufferable. But there are like 5 or 6 of you who just get it. Just absolutely get it. And I love y'all to death. But it's the rest of them that I'm like, oh my God. These guys are insufferable. But clearly you're not one of those fans. So I definitely rock with you, man. I appreciate you as always. Daniel Snyder, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, drug test Jefferson. Don't worry about me. Sure. I'm telling you, it's funny. When A.J. Brown had the 3 touchdown grabs, they drug tested. Like, the NFL is so whack. I swear. It's the stupidest thing. There was a punter, Gilligan, for the Saints, I think it was. He had like an 80-yard punt. You know, it was probably like 70 yards in the air, and then it hit the ground, and it bounced another 10 yards. It was ridiculous. Obviously, everyone's talking about the punt. He gets drug tested the next day. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how obvious can you be? Oh, he kicked an 80-yard punt. He's got to be doing something illegal. Let's test him. A.J. Brown, 3 touchdowns in the first half of a ball game. He's got to be doing something wrong. Let's test him. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the NFL is just so stupid, man. I swear. Justin Jefferson, I wouldn't be shocked if he got tested tomorrow. I would not be shocked about that at all. NFL is stupid that way. Anyway, Derek B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly. All right. Derek B writes, Kyle dials up a gun run on 3rd and goal from the 2. I thought someone let Turner on the sideline. I mean, I'm not shocked by that with Kyle. It wasn't one of his finest play calls. I've seen him, be more creative in those situations and do a better job of finding a way to get it in the end zone. They struggled mightily tonight. I've already laid that out for you. They were 2 of 5 in the red zone, which is why this game was a lot closer than it needed to be. Again, Brandon Ayuk dropped a touchdown that would have given them, an additional touchdown in the red zone, but still, it wasn't Kyle's finest hour in the red zone in this game. But what I'm finding out watching, and I know this already because I watch enough football, but still, what I'm finding out is that a lot of these play callers outsmart themselves in these short yardage situations. It's not just Scott Turner, and I'm not sticking up for Scott Turner. He's terrible, I really truly feel in watching all of these, like I watch Mike McDaniel in Miami, and I just think, oh my God, what he would do with the talent in Washington. Oh my God. Now watch some of these offensive coordinators and some of these play callers, some of these head coaches that are offensive minded guys. And I just say, oh my God, what they would do with what we have in Washington. And we're stuck with Scott Turner and his inflexibility as a play caller. This is my scheme and you have to do it my way. And, and I'm looking at all these guys that just find ways to build an offense around the talent that they have. But Aaron Rodgers went off. Cussed his head coach, Matt LaFleur, slam out because of a 3rd and 1 call late in that ball game at the end of regulation. Because instead of them running the football, getting the first down, calling a timeout, and then having Aaron Rodgers start to throw the football, he tried to get cute on 3rd and 1, roll Aaron Rodgers out to his left. Nobody was open. Rodgers had to throw it away, and Rodgers came, and they had to punt, and the game ended up going to overtime, and Rodgers let him have it. And I think there are just times where these guys outsmart themselves. Just run the football, get the first down, and then, burn. And the bad part was he called a timeout to produce that play. And that's the shit that drives me nuts, is you call a timeout. Like Washington did the same thing against Minnesota. You call it, you burn a timeout, an unnecessary timeout. I didn't think the Packers needed to burn one of their 2 remaining timeouts to talk about anything. Run the football. Get up there, hand it off to A.J. Dillon, get the first down, then you can call one of your 2 remaining timeouts. Washington did the same thing against the Vikings. It's 4th and 1. It's 4th and inches. Quarterback sneak the football, keep it pushing. No, not only do they not quarterback sneak the ball, they call a timeout because they're confused as to what they want to do. They come out of the timeout and they decide to run a bootleg. Of course, it's incomplete and the Vikings get a stop. Sometimes I think these guys are too smart for their own good. When I hear statistics like Justin Herbert last year was 12 of 12 on quarterback sneaks, it's not rocket science. And not every quarterback is 6'6", right? And not every quarterback knows how to quarterback sneak. There's an art to it. Like Kirk Cousins sucks at quarterback sneaks, which is why he gets stopped so often. Because he's too high on these quarterback sneaks. You got to get low on these things. You got to find a hole. If it's not there, you got to go to the side and find somewhere else to burrow your head in. But I just think this is a league-wide epidemic where coordinators sometimes overthink a situation and outsmart themselves. And I think Kyle had one of those moments in the game tonight. But you saw it with Matt LaFleur too, and you see it quite often. Spence Callis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, our D will show up, Louie. I feel it. They may show up. It's not necessarily the defense I'm concerned about. I mean, I could be wrong about that, and the Eagles could torch us defensively, but I'm not really that concerned. They played well, and we weren't even playing well defensively when we played them the first time, and they played well in that game except for the second quarter. And everything went wrong in the second quarter. I'm not really concerned about the defense. That's the least of my concerns. It's really the offense that I'm concerned about. Can they score enough points? Can they not? This is all I ever asked for. Just look, I'm not looking for turnovers. And we've been getting them, of late. We've been producing more turnovers. But I don't even ask for them anymore. Just don't turn the football over. That's all I ask for now. I don't ask for much. Just don't turn the football over. Just play a clean game. If we do that, we're going to give ourselves a chance to win. We rarely do that. We usually have to overcome some type of mistake or two in a game. Just don't turn it over. That's all I want them to do against Philadelphia is just don't turn it over. It'd be great to force a turnover or two, but the likelihood is the Eagles really don't turn the football over. They don't make a ton of mistakes that way. I'm not looking for, a turnover or two in this game. It'd be nice to get it. Just don't turn the ball over. I worry that our offense can't even do that. Simple task. Just take care of the football. So I'm not worried about the defense, Spence. It's the offense I'm concerned about. Joe Rockhead J. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Who writes, my winners and losers is a slow spin down the toilet. LOL. It's been that type of year. And this is when perseverance is at its greatest, because there have been weeks where I've said to myself, what am I doing? How did I get here? But again, I've been doing this for long enough where I know they come like this. They're these weeks where you might have 3 weeks straight or 3 out of 4 weeks where you're just struggling and you can't get right. But they're going to come. The wins are going to come. You're going to figure it out. You just got to weather the storm. You just got to find a way to get through that storm. And on the other side, there's going to be some clear skies and maybe a rainbow. And maybe there's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Who knows? But I found my way out of the storm. The skies are, opening up now, or the clouds rather are removing themselves from the picture. It's becoming a sunny day, and now I just got to take advantage of this opportunity while it's in front of me. So we'll see what happens. Daniel Snyder, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. Who writes, we're not going to blow past that guy saying our D will show up. I feel it. I'm throwing the challenge. We need to investigate him, not me, Lou. Spence has confidence in our defense's ability to give us a chance against the Eagles. So do I. I think, and I've just said this, but the statement to me doesn't need to be made that the defense will show up. Because the Eagles' offense is so proficient and they score a bunch of points. Yeah, you can. That's not a statement that doesn't need to be made. But I think it'd be more of a, statement that needed to be made that the offense is going to show up. I can feel it. Because we haven't scored more than 23 points in a game since week 2. And we've only scored 20 points once since week 2. So the offense, again, I can't state this enough. That's the problem. It's not the defense. The defense has given us an opportunity to win in pretty much every single game since week 2. They've given us a shot. It's the offense that's been the problem. So, yeah. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace 34 writes, good night. Bless you and the fam. Catch you tomorrow night. Sounds good, man. Appreciate you as always. And you definitely know I will be around tomorrow night for sure. Should be fun. Looking forward to it. All right. Let's see if we got any more hashtags. If we do, I'll read them. Still got a few more minutes to chop it up. If there are no more, then I'll go back potentially and grab my guys' supers that are hashtags that are made to be funny. HHC Lunar writes, Josh McDaniels giving out free wins. Yeah, he sucks. What's crazy is just looking at how frustrated Devontae Adams is. I know he's regretting his decision to leave Green Bay. And the crazy part is he came to play with his boy Derek, and Derek may only be there for this year. He could be gone after this year. They could trade him. Then what? Like, is Devontae Adams going to be pissed off and demand a trade out of Vegas? Like, grass isn't always greener. You hear that all the time, but it's a very true statement sometimes. Not all the time. Like my sister, we were talking about Dan Snyder today, and she was like, y'all get rid of him. What if y'all get a worse owner? I said, well, I'm just going to tell you this right now. The grass can't be any browner on the other side. It may not be greener, but we sure hell is we're sure willing to find out. Okay, we are sure as hell willing to find out if the grass is any greener on the other side. It can't be any browner. That's for damn sure. Can't be any more brown than it is right now. So she started laughing. I'm like, it can't get any worse. So whatever's waiting for us on the other side, we want it. Whatever's behind that door, we want to see. Got another super. This is from Spence Colleagues. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Spence, who writes, I'm simply saying it will be a game in the 4th. You don't have to explain yourself. You saying that you think the defense is going to show up is essentially you making the statement that you think we're going to be in the ball game with a chance, because that's what defense does. It gives you a fighting chance, which is what our defense has done for the most part this season. It's given us an opportunity. It's a damn shame. that we haven't taken advantage of what the defense has been able to do a little bit more. But the reality of the situation is our offense has been a bottom 7 offense for the most part this season in the league, specifically from a scoring production. Like, if you take away the first 2 weeks of the season, we're one of the worst scoring offenses in football. The only thing that stops us from being better than teams like Indianapolis and Denver and some of the bottom feeding teams in terms of scoring points is the fact that we scored 28 in week 1 and 27 in week 2. You take away those two games and those 2 scoring, those are outbursts, by the way, now, okay? We thought that would be the norm this season. Those are outbursts, 28 and 27, respectively, in the first 2 weeks. You take those away, we're probably averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 points a game. You know, there's a 12 in there. There's a 15 against Dallas, 17 against the Titans, 17 against the Vikings, 17 against the Colts. Yeah, it's probably somewhere in that 15, 16 range. You take away those first 2 games, but you add those games in there, it probably pushes it to 19 points a game, 18, 19, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I don't even know if it's that high. It might be like 17.8 or some shit like that. But just imagine if you took those 2 games away. Probably be down in, like I said, 15, points a game or whatever. So the offense has been the issue, not the defense. So I know what you meant. I know exactly what you're referring to. Let's see. Dream Team Buddha Film Production. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "Yo, Lou, I just want to say I appreciate the hard work you put in week week out. My wife be watching and leaning from you. No, LOL. She be like, turn bro on." Hey, go ahead. That's funny. Hey, I appreciate that. Tell your wife I said what's up, man. Hey, I always appreciate when people tell me that their wives watch or they know who I am. That's crazy to me. That's funny. I get a chuckle out of that, but I also do appreciate that. So thank you once again for the support. And I appreciate you tuning in, week out, day in, day out. That's the kind of support that I need, that I relish, and I thank each and every single one of you who watches every video that I put out, every live stream. You're here, you're chopping it up with me. If you don't catch it live, you watch the playback. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. So thank you for that once again. Dream Team Buddha Film Production. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, "Y'all tell the world about Lou and share the video." Y'all heard the man. I'll take this opportunity to go ahead and have a shameless plug. If you haven't already done so, please like this video. Over 220 of you are out there, only 66 likes. We can do so much better. All right, so hit the like button. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Thanks again, Dream Team Buddha Film Production, for that super chat and that public service announcement. Let's see where we are, where we left off. Right here. Miss Perry says Derek Carr was crying in the press conference. Is that true? Was he really crying? I mean, I could see him doing that, but one of my best friends is a Raiders fan. So, he said after the game last week, he said, "I'm just tired of Derek Carr promising me shit after every loss. Like, this will never happen again. I promise you we'll be better. I promise you we'll be better. I promise this will never happen again." He's like, "I'm just tired of him promising shit. Just be better." So I can imagine Derek Carr crying. It would not shock me one bit. HHC Lunar writes, imagine that Raiders roster with a real head coach. Again, I feel the same way about our offensive skill position and our roster, offensively. Again, we don't have a great quarterback pulling the strings, but I don't think you even have to have a great quarterback with the amount of talent that we have on offense. Now, the offensive line isn't great. We're flawed on offense. Let's not kid ourselves. I don't want to make it seem like we have the greatest show on turf and we just got a clown calling the plays, and so we can't maximize it. But we have talent. We should not be scratching and clawing our way to 17 points every single week and barely making it, eking our way to 17 points. That should not be the bar. Score 17 and pray that the defense holds the opposition to 16. That shouldn't be the case with what we have on offense. But that's where we are right now. That's frustrating. But the Raiders are in that same spot. And they've had injuries too. Like Darren Waller hasn't played much of the season. Hunter Renfrow has been in and out of the lineup with an injury. So they've dealt with injuries as well. The offensive line, remember, they gutted that offensive line and they started from scratch. So but Josh Jacobs has been phenomenal this year. He's had, I don't want to call it a resurgence. That would imply that he was, garbage, and he wasn't, or he had a super down, couple of years and now he's back. But this is the best we've seen Josh Jacobs probably since his rookie season. And you're getting that from Jacobs. You've got Devontae Adams. And you're getting an out-of-body experience out of Mac Hollins. And you've got nothing to show for it. The defense, they're not very good defensively, but you've got pieces on that defense that I really like. We know Max Crosby is a problem. I love Devon Diablo. I think that the corner Hobbs is really good. Like there's some pieces there defensively. I think Deron Harmon is a really good veteran safety that they got from the Patriots. I don't know if he was with the Patriots last. He might have been with the Lions last, but whatever. He's been playing good for them. They got some pieces, man. They're not well coached. They're not well coached. Anyway, I digress. Got another super chat here. This one is from Yin Yang Experience. Feels like a while since we've chopped it up. I might be tripping. Either way, good to hear from you. Yin Yang Experience, who writes, St. Juice or Fuller, man-to-man on Brown? That's not even a question. That's St. Juice. This is a great matchup for him. I actually like this matchup for St. Juice. This is the kind of guy that I envisioned him guarding when we drafted him. I was shocked he had such an impact on Justin Jefferson, to be honest with you, because of Justin Jefferson's quick twitch ability and his, elusive nature. I didn't think that Juice would be able to stand up to the assault, but he did. And he took his lumps like a man, but he also dished out his fair share. AJ Brown is a big brute. Like, he's not going to run by you necessarily. He can if you allow him to, but I think this is right up Juice's alley, honestly. I'm not afraid of AJ Brown. Not because he's not capable. He's fully capable of destroying us. But I'll take my chances. I'll roll the dice with Juice, going around the field with him. Our problem isn't AJ Brown. Our problem is Devontae Smith. I don't trust Fuller to guard him. And I don't trust Fuller to guard AJ Brown. I'd much rather have Fuller on Devontae Smith and take my chances. It's just I don't like my chances. You damned if you do, damned if you don't. You put Fuller on AJ Brown, then AJ Brown goes off for 7 catches and 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'd rather take my chances with Devontae Smith and say, Fuller, give me a fighting chance. So it's juice all day, every day on Brown man to man. That's our number one corner right now. The Great Watubi, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Great Watubi writes, Washington is the favorite next week, 2.5-point favorite. They're at Houston. So, I mean, are you excited about being a 2.5-point favorite to a 1-win team? I mean, that's not like Vegas is saying, okay, like, we really don't think you're all that much better than Houston, but you're slightly better than Houston. Like that number could change drastically if we beat Philadelphia. But again, right now we're 11-point underdogs to the Eagles. Like, they have no respect for us. So anyway, I digress. All right. We'll take a couple more and then we'll get out of here. HHC Lunar says, Brandon Staley thinks he's a defensive guru and genius, LOL. I think he is a very smart football guy. I think he does have a sharp football mind. I think everybody looks so much better when you have Aaron Donald that you're coaching. Makes life a lot easier when you have Aaron Donald. He's got some talented guys on the defensive side of the football. And honestly, he's made do with what he's had. I've been shocked that he hasn't been able to get them to stop the run better. That's been his Achilles heel since coming over from the Rams and taking over as the head coach of the Chargers. Their pass defense hasn't been terrible. It's been the inability to stop the run. And then when you can't stop the run, you have to start divulging so many guys and resources to stopping the run that it then compromises your pass defense. And I think it makes their pass defense look worse than what it is. That's really the issue. It's not when they're able to get you in third down situations, third and long, they're usually pretty good. And at getting you off the field. Their problem is they just are inconsistent stopping the run. And that's putting it mildly. And by not being able to stop the run consistently, it compromises their pass defense. I actually don't think he's a bad defensive mind. I've already said this. I think he's a really good leader of men. I think those guys would run through a brick wall for him. I think that he's over aggressive, and he's tempered that a bit ever since the Cleveland decision. I think a lot of people jumped down his throat. Now, they won the game, but easily could have lost that game. Probably should have lost that game. Since then, he's punted the football pretty much. They get into those situations. And I think Chargers fans are somewhat frustrated because they're like, bro, just be you. Like, do the things that you do. Like, don't be inconsistent. If you're going to go for it, go for it. That's who he's been. But there's a fine line that you draw. Like, sometimes there's being aggressive and then there's being stupid. And I think there's too many times where he's on the wrong side of that line. And so he's cleaned that up a bit, but now he's not being true to himself. He's not being an authentic version of Brandon Staley. He's being what everyone else wants him to be. And I've always said this, as if I were a coach, I say this with GMs all the time. To a degree, you say this about coaches, or at least I do at times. I'm going to go down doing it my way. I'm going down Frank Sinatra style, right? And more, much more than this, I did it my way. If I'm going to go down as a GM, I'm going to get my coach. I'm going to draft my quarterback, and I'm going down guns a-blazing that way. If I'm a head coach, I'm going to get my guys in here, guys I believe in, and I'm going down with my stuff, doing it my way. I'm not going to go down doing it your way. And so if I'm Brandon Staley and I'm on the verge of potentially getting canned, I'm going to go down my way, being aggressive, guns a-blazing. I'm going to go down in a blaze of glory. But that's not really what he's doing right now. He's trying to acquiesce to what everybody else wants him to be. And, I remember doing the same thing, being one of those people that was hypercritical of Doug Peterson. When he first came in, he was going for it on fourth down all the time. And I'm like, he was losing games, especially that first year. And I was like, he's a clown. He's going to get fired. And that aggressive nature got them the Super Bowl. Got them that year in 2017 where they pretty much ran the table, got all the way to the Super Bowl. The Philly special was on a fourth down. Like, that was just him being aggressive, him being who he is. I think that's what Brandon Staley has to continue to do. But again, you got to understand that there's times you're at your own 29-yard line. Like, this isn't smart. You got to punt the football. I know it's 4th and 1. I know you got Justin Herbert. I know you feel really good about this play call right here. Don't do it. Just punt the football. You're at the Chiefs 49. You're, right at midfield pretty much. Okay, I don't mind you rolling the dice there. If it doesn't work out, fine. But, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. But I actually think he's a smart dude. I think he gets it. Just, hasn't worked out for him. And a lot of it is injuries, man. It's rough. They've had a ton of injuries. Future millionaire, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. So glad to have you on board. Mob, y'all know what to do. Show Future Millionaire some love. Welcome him with open arms to the squad. I think you've already been here. You probably upgraded potentially, but whatever the case may be, I'm glad to have you. Come on in, and I look forward to chopping it up with you as always. Welcome to the squad. All right. Anyway, I digress. So, all right, we've hit our landmark as far as time is concerned. This was a really good game. 49ers get it done, and they didn't even play their best football, and they won this football game. I think that's a bit of an indictment of the Chargers and where they are as a football team with all the injuries that they have. But it's also a sign of a good 49ers team that find a way to win games, similar to the Vikings. You're not always going to play your best game, but you find a way to get it done. The Vikings have done that 7 times in a row. They're 8-1, and the 49ers are now, finding ways to win games that earlier in the season they were losing. And so they're becoming a dangerous team. I think they're the best team in that NFC West. And I think they're just a game back now of the Seattle Seahawks, who lost. I think they're 6-3 now. These 49ers are coming. And it's going to be interesting to see if the 49ers can play mistake-free football, figure out how to utilize all of these weapons that they now have. If they can harness all of this offensive firepower that they have and get the defense to be consistent, I'm just saying they could be the team to beat in the NFC. We'll see. I think defensively, when they're right, when they're playing together as a unit, I think they may be the best defense in the NFC right now. And again, there's some other defenses that are really good, but no, man, this 49ers defense may be the best of the group. So we'll see. They're 5-4. So are the Chargers. Big game for both next week against, divisional opponents, both on prime time, if I'm not mistaken. The Chargers are on Sunday night at home against the Chiefs. Meanwhile, the 49ers will be at Arizona on Monday Night Football. So We'll see if these two teams can get it done respectively within their division next week. But the 49ers were victorious tonight as they get it done 22-16 over the Los Angeles Chargers. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Look forward to chopping it up with you tomorrow. Obviously, we will be live for the post-game show, Monday Night Football overtime, rather, of Eagles, Commanders. If you're a member of the MOBB, we will be live watching that game together on Monday night. So you should get a video out of me first thing tomorrow morning. A Commanders nightly news episode to get you ready for the Monday night game. So consume that, comment on that, and I look forward to chopping it up with you guys. No matter what happens, win, lose, or draw, you know where to find me. I got a lot to say, so tune into that video. Anyway, I digress. You guys, get out of here. What a Sunday of football. The only thing that could make this any better would be if Washington somehow pulled the upset over the Philadelphia Eagles. But we've got plenty of time to talk about that. Tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. It's only a day away. Till then, you guys, get out of here. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.